the link rounds later for you to view it in your own time. Just a bit about Moreno as well, I guess, for those who are either new to us or we haven't seen you in a year for obvious reasons. We are importer of specializing in Spanish wines, although our portfolio is growing to encompass more of the world now as well. And today, indeed, we're looking at New Age Spain as well, with three of our favorite Spanish producers. We're just a team of 6. Myself, I look after the north, so I'm coming to you from a sunny Manchester today. Hamish is the sales manager based in London, also looks after Scotland. We Simon, who does my job in the south. We've got Nick and Harry, without whom we could not function. Harry, who's doing all the tech for today's tasting. And we've got Pete as well, who looks after London. So just a small team. Hopefully we've got plenty of participants on at the moment, so I think we'll head over. So we've got 3 producers today. Just to confirm the wines, we've got Adaras Juvia from Venta La Vega. We'll be tasting that one first, and then we'll swing it over to Melanie at Finca Hapa with Finca Hapa Blanco. And we'll finish off with some lovely Pinot Noir with Hugo, and that is the Citius. So hopefully you got those 3 there. And like I said, just pop those questions into the chat or the Q&A as we go, and Hamish or I'll direct them over to the producers. I think that's everything I've got to say. I don't want to talk for too long because I know you'll be desperate to hear from our producers. So we're and if you've not had your coffee yet, this will certainly wake you up. I'm going to introduce Ignacio from La Vega, and he's going to talk us through the Adaras Juvia white wine. Good morning, Ignacio. Just want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Normally they tell me the opposite. Could you please push the button of mute? And I'm not talking online communication, any situation. But thank you so much for the introduction, Mike. And thank you so much for all the Moreno Wines clients and friends to be there. I guess through the present crazy movie type days, we can really say this is something more special and more unique. And for me, I have to say, this gives me the chance to say something I haven't said since I was 16. Something like, this is my first time. I might be a little bit nervous about tasting online. But thank you so much to everyone to be there. And just to make one more thing, you say you are a small group, but they also say size doesn't matter or whatever. I guess the important thing about Moreno, you guys are a very strong group, young people, and we are very happy. I'm sure Melanie and Hugo and his brother Diego are also feeling very important, the close relation and, you know, this being young, push type of work you're doing, and we really appreciate. Anyway, I represent Bodegas Venta La Vega, where we are tasting one of those wines today, that is Adaras Juvia. I'm gonna make a little quick introduction of our project that I think might be important for the clients and for the friends that are tasting, and also meeting and knowing the wines from Adaras. We are a winery that is in Almansa. Almansa, it's also our appellation, Dio Almansa. We are at the southeast of Spain, around 1 hour, 1 hour and a half from Alicante and from Valencia. And we are at the stage where the whole meseta, that is Mancha area, not appellation, starts coming from the sea. So I guess also this gives a little explanation that maybe it's not so important for us, but for Asian people that we are working a lot with them there. What is Adaras? What is Adaras? I'm like, it's a name, but the name comes from the Roman days. That means on the platform, because they will reach that point after coming through the Mediterranean and after climbing all this to almost 1,000 meter high. That is where we are in the winery, in the top part. You start the way into the rest of Spain, okay? So that's where the name comes from, Adaras, okay? And Lluvia, it's because it's a rainy day and it's lovely. And our winery is in a 1,000 hectares estate. and we have up to almost 250 hectares of organic grown. Our wines, and the one we're trying today and the rest, are organic and also vegan. We have two ranges of wines that we work in Almansa. One is Adaras, the one we are presenting today, and we also have Ternarios, that is another range. We have two winemakers working there. One that is the one for Adaras is Jose Angel Martinez Marchante. He's also a young guy like us. It's a very strong personality from these new Vanegons, working with their style for the grapes that are Spanish classical, like we have now the Garnacha Tintorera. The area of Almansa is very well known for being Garnacha Tintorera born place. Actually, somehow through history, it's been an area with a high production of Garnacha Tintorera, and through the last 15, 20, 10 years, the work around Spain, like producers we're going to be also talking today with, have been, turning the point into the quality. In some areas where normally could be understood in the past ages, that will be more about quantity than quality. Okay, so in our case, Jose Angel Martinez Marchante and the work he makes with the Garnacha and also with the Verdejo Sauvignon Blanc, it's more about the expression of the grape and the area. Okay, let's go for the wine. I don't know, the people we have there, it's have glasses, have wine in the hand.
I would hope so. Yeah, samples have been sent, so fingers crossed.
James Fowler, yeah, any chance for a Google Maps to the winery? James, of course. And a COVID travel passport, of course. Not drinking out of the bottle, whatever you want. Anyway, like I was saying, the typical grape of our area, it's the Garnacha Tintorera. So we have 5 wines in the range of Adaras that you clients and friends can try out of the portfolio. And the one we're tasting today, it's the Sauvignon Blanc Verdejo Sauvignon Blanc. Okay, this wine, like the ones of Adaras, expressing the truth of the area and the truth of our soil. But the most important thing is to pass freshness, okay, and to have a wine that you can rotation, okay. We have the aromatic intensity from the Verdejo. The Verdejo is a very classic white grape of Spain, as you know, and it's normally not in our area, but working good. And the Sauvignon Blanc gives a little bit more typicity and complexity. So I guess the idea of the winemaker was to not have a monovarietal Verdejo that is a regular one around the area and in all the areas, but still have some kind of good balance between both grapes and showing in that sense, clean and bright taste. Okay, you have some tropical fruits in the nose. Very well balanced complexity and long, fresh, intense pass through the mouth. Okay, delicious, James. That is pretty much the top. Delicious.
Tell us about your sort of partnership with Raul Perez as well. And
yes, sorry. Well, actually, yes, sorry.
Yeah,
the important thing I wanted to also pass, the winemaker of the Adaras is Jose Angel Martinez Marchante. He has his own project called Envinate, and well, he's very, very, very strong in this young generation wine makers that people like Raul Perez started with. Like Raul Perez comes from the Bierzo. We also have in our group wines from that area, and he fallen in love pretty much about the same time I came into the project. He fallen in love with the idea of working with Garnacha Tintorera, that is, let's say, rough or previously not too much of high quality consideration grape. and somehow the Garnacha Tintorera has been historically used for giving blends freshness, fruitness, and color. So I mean, wow, you have three very important things out of the wine, but you cannot have a Garnacha Tintorera single varietal wine that shows all those things with high quality standards, look and feeling. So Raúl Pérez, in that sense, joined into the project a little bit before I jumped in, and his idea was also finding that refined and see, the most important thing for him and also Jose Angel Marchante is what they call less intervention. So for example, for here, the idea is to have a very, 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 very light filtration, okay? And the idea is to be doing the work on the field. Once you have the work properly done on the field, not looking for much aging on the oak, and not making the oak being the passenger. And it's more about showing the nature of the fruit and the nature of the identity of the Garnacha Tintorera. And well, hopefully during the next months, also the Ternario project, some of the clients are now on the mid-morning wine. Yes, Ali, this is something I'm gonna use right down, because I wanna start doing many more tasting. Perfect mid-morning wine. It's perfect, very fresh. Thank you so much. And well, anyway, like I say, very, very, very slow filtration and almost no purification, okay? And showing the truth of the grape. And I guess the intention and the strongest part of their job is about to transport that truth from the vines and from the grape to the bottle and to the final client, of course, okay? And not changing, like I say, we have not a strong work into the oak for our wines, okay?
Good question in from George, actually. Is it a 50-50 blend between the Sauvignon?
Good question, George Smallman. I'll tell you something. I've done that question to my winemaker a few times, and I guess somehow they like to keep some part of the secrets, like, well, Ignacio, this and that. Actually, he told me there is more Verdejo than Sauvignon Blanc. And he told me it could be around 70% Verdejo and 30% Sauvignon Blanc. This, well, the one I'm tasting now is 2020. I don't know, you guys might have 2019 maybe over there.
I think we'll still be on 19. Okay,
but meaning this, that somehow, I guess, we try to adapt to each year situation. But I guess for most of the vintages, there is more Verdejo than Sauvignon Blanc, okay?
Okay.
And somehow also, besides whatever the blend is needed for the year and the nature of finding that complexity in a good balance, I guess we like to have more Verdejo like our grape, Also in that sense, it also depends on Raúl too, because we have into the Ternario range, we have 100% Sauvignon Blanc that is worked by Raúl with actually a little bit oak to give a little bit touch, but also will depend on the situation of the Sauvignon Blanc that is used by Raúl Pérez, okay? So normally try to balance, but more Verdejo than Sauvignon Blanc. Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Normally, one question, because getting questions, I think for England, for the English market, and for all the friends that are looking at us, we have the idea as a salesman, as traveling into many markets, for England, for Holland, and for some markets that have a little bit of the same, what they call summer wine. And I like it, the morning wine. I guess my question is, or for the people on the other side, do they drink white wine among, I guess, some of younger red wines, but mostly white wine? They also drink it all year through, like not like the summer wine, no?
Yeah, very good. Just got a question as well. Why is there no name on the bottle? But I guess the name is on the back, isn't it? Tell us about the name again, because it's obviously kind of reflected on the image as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adaras lluvia. Okay. We have out of the range of Adaras, we have Adaras lluvia, we have Aldea. Aldea, it's, well, I guess you guys told me the name, but it's gone from my brain again.
Village.
It's a small town. It was village
or Hamlet or something like that.
Hamlet, yeah. To be or not to be. And so anyway, it's Adaras lluvia, Adaras Aldea, Adaras calizo. That calizo is clay. We also have a non-sulfites, and then we have huella. All these names of each reference resembles a little bit of what we have in the area. The lluvia, it comes easy from one of the main three things out of the production of the wine: the soil, the grape, and the weather conditions. You know, the rain, the snow, and where we are actually, our winery, like I say, the top part is almost 1,000 hectares. Oh, sorry, 1,000 meters high. Okay, but we have the low part of the winery, some vines and some vineyards around 550, 600 meters high. So we do have, we have for the wine makers a little playground, you know. So they have all vines from Garnacha Tintorera. This the vines for the Sauvignon Blanc and for the Verdejo. The Sauvignon Blanc are around, I think, 18 years old, and the Verdejo 17. And both are in trellis, you know. So these are young vines, and this is for young vine. And again, the Adaras name resembles to the Roman ancient name of the area of Almansa that will call the platform. Okay. Also, I think they will link this to their gods. So they will have a platform to have gods. Well, the Romans had a lot of good activities, like having many gods and many drinking and pushing all together.
So the actual word lluvia means rainfall, doesn't it? Hence,
yes, lluvia means rainfall, and somehow I guess the design, it looks a little bit like that. For me, it looks a little bit like rainfall out of a window. It gets a more sentimental mood, you know. But somehow, actually, this the fronts are very eye-catching, you know. And for many markets, actually, we try to keep very clean. You have on the side the varietals, okay, and a little explanation. But the idea is to keep quite clean in a very eye-catching. Actually, we have been fighting because we're delivering an order for Brazil, and you need to have 750 milliliters right here in the middle. Doesn't look good, but I guess they don't care how good it looks forever, and the rest of information in the back. But yeah, hopefully this also helps, and I guess for the clients and the consumers, this also makes some funny touch. You know, it's a very marketing world we're living on. So I guess hopefully that works too.
Yeah. Someone, it's not in this chat, but someone asked me the other day, actually, on when you've got the grapes listed, you've got those squares, and the images are slightly different shaped. Is that related to the?
Well, yeah. We have, and you can see through all the reference of the winery that we have for each of the grape a different size, a different paint. Well, I guess, you know, the marketing people works very hard on these things, and somehow sometimes it also gets a little bit not complex, but wow, it's so deep. It's, man, come on, I just want to drink the wine, you know. But thank you for the information and being such a game, no? But yeah. And of course, the stamp, like we have to see through the year, because we have the organic wines stamp here. We'll see what happens during the year and about the organic certification. And hopefully for the consumers that have been already knowing our wines through Moreno, this will have no affection and they will still keep enjoying the wines. So thank you very much for guys having such a good taste and for being good customers of Moreno and of Venta La Vega.
No worries. I think one last question there, Ignacio, just on a food pairing, actually. If you had a recommendation for food.
Well, here I'm in the south of Spain at the moment, and I'm drinking this wine mostly with fish. I'm feeling healthy, by the way, somehow. But yeah, I think, you know, it can really go with any fresh food, you know, light food and vegetables or whatever. But I like to take it with fish. I think it perfect matches, and it's lovely.
If it's useful, I can just quickly share my screen so people can see where you're located in Spain. So they've got an idea of how close you are to Alicante and Murcia.
Exactly.
And
yeah, we are. making a triangle with Valencia and Alicante. You know, they're both very famous ports. And exactly, we are very, 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 you know, like 5 kilometers from Almansa. The winery is right on the side, and it's a well located. You know, we have Atlantic weather. You know, I mean, actually continental, but with a lot of Mediterranean influence. So I guess we are organic, and we have the ability to have certified in an easy way, thanks to those breeds from the Mediterranean that give us a good help.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Ignacio. If there's
thank you very much, Mike, Hamis, and everybody else.
No, very good. If there's anything else you wanted to finish on, otherwise, we'll
pass the torch to Melanie and then to Hugo, and just perfect. A quick chance to say thank you again, and that hopefully we can have more meetings online, but really aiming to have the chance to to bring our regular daily, even with a mask, I'll be all right, but looking at people and laughing together. So definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time, Ignacio. And
gracias, Mike. Gracias, Hamis, and everyone.
Gracias. And we'll
be following up the rest. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks. Fantastic. Thanks, Ignacio. So we will smoothly transition over to our second producer. So we've got Melanie from Struggling Vines, Finca Hapa, over in Rioja Alavesa. So I'm sure Harry will be able to introduce us very shortly, and can talk us through Finca Hapa White.
You ready for me, or you mentioned something about Harry?
Yes, we are ready. Yeah, just queuing up Harry, but he's totally on it. So yeah, good morning.
You want me to? Yeah, I can go ahead.
Yeah. Talk us through your projects there, where you are, a bit of your history, and then we'll taste some wine, if that's okay with you, Mel.
Okay, sure. So I married a Spaniard, so as Ignacio noticed, I'm clearly not from Spain, but I live here now. My husband is a Spanish winemaker, and that's part of the reason that it all got started. But we are in Rioja Alavesa, and we're, I think it's covered now. Earlier you could see the mountain range behind me. So we live next to the winery. So the vineyards are some of them are surrounding us. They're not all of them are ours, but the mountain range, the Sierra Cantabria mountain range, is just behind us. So our village is the village of LVR. If anyone's ever been to Spain, we're next to LaGuardia. LaGuardia is often registers with people, but our village historically was more they were known for high quality grapes, but there were a lot of people that sold grapes rather than making wine. So while some villages have a lot of wineries, the viticultors here lived well off of selling grapes, so there aren't many wineries. We're one of the few, we're one of 3. But it's also a very, very tiny village. Some of the differences, because as you probably all know, there are 3 areas of Rioja, and we, as I said, are in Rioja Alavesa. So really the difference there is, the altitude of our village is around 500. The altitude of the vineyard of the wine that we're going to taste is about 650 meters high. And, but one of the major differences is we have limestone soils here. So it's more altitude, the limestone soils, and then our village, we have 3 valleys that run from the mountain range down to the river Ebro. And it gives just a lot of different qualities to every single vineyard. So Finca Hapa is a single vineyard wine, and here is the bottle. But first, I'm going to give you a little background, because it's how I kind of started all this is that's kind of funny, as you would say. I was living in Hawaii, actually, when I met my husband. I didn't meet him in Hawaii. Everybody assumes that. But I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I had a dog named Hapa. So that's where the name, the wine gets its name from. And you can imagine I had lived there for about 11 years, and I was single before I met my husband. And so this was my child. Hapa was my child. And so that's him one day when I would love to hike when I lived there I still love to hike, but I just don't do it as much. And so needless to say, when I married my husband and I moved to Spain, I was taking my dog with me, but he was getting older, and long story short, literally right before the move, he passed away. And I smile because my husband is, well, we are in the Basque region. Maybe the Spaniards here would appreciate the difference between the cultures. But when I was really upset and whatnot, he kind of didn't understand how I could be so distraught over a dog. And, you know, I was trying to explain he was my life, he was my child and everything. And it was also very sudden. And so one day, I think just to get me over the fact that my dog had died, he said, kind of in passing, don't worry, Melanie, one day we'll make a wine in honor of Hapa. And so I was like, oh, you know, that's such a beautiful idea. That's a great idea. And I moved to Spain, and I kept asking, where's my Hapa wine? Where's my Hapa wine? And my husband says, you know, I'm not a wealthy man. We're not rich. And I'm sorry, I can't just invent things. You know, I can't just do it. And so that's why I always joke with him. I say it was just something to kind of pacify me. And so I would stop asking about the wine. But one day we were walking around the village, and because he's from here and whatnot, he knows just about every vineyard there is. And he showed me this one vineyard. And as you see here, the dog is white. And one thing I always loved about my husband is the way he made white wines. So we were walking by this vineyard, and I just fell in love. And I said, this, and you have to understand, it's perched on the top of a hill. So it's a higher altitude for this region. And it was one of the first vineyards. It was planted in 1967. And where we are here, we have a lot of really old vines. Some of them planted in 1910, for example. But this one is for us. And we find that fascinating because it's a time where they weren't planting vineyards going up the mountain. So for whatever reason, my husband sometimes will say the man that planted this, the vineyard, had to be a visionary to do something that was not really done previously. Because previously, the way our vineyard is set, it's like a triangle. Our vineyard village is set, it's like a triangle going down to the river Ebro, so a lower altitude. And they had traditionally planted vineyards from the river going up only to the village. But this was the first vineyard planted going up the mountain. So offering that freshness, but it was something that the people were probably worried about maturation, what would happen. Now I believe that's the future of where we are. I mean, there are wheat fields, and I always wonder if eventually in the future that will all just be vineyard. But if you want to plant vines, it's one of the few places that are left to plant vines. But whether he was looking for freshness, because he was also rare in the sense that he made wine rather than just sold grapes. So there were just a lot of interesting things. Plus, he planted half of the vineyard white grapes, which again, you know, a lot of people think Rioja and they think red grapes, but he planted half of the vineyard with white grapes. So it was Viura, Malvasia, and a little bit of Garnacha Blanca. We did a study recently in some of the vineyards, and we found that actually a lot of the vines were a lot more Malvasia than we thought. I mean, still a small percentage, but much more than we thought. Anyway, so it's white chalky soil. I fell in love with it, and I said, because of the white grapes, you saw the dog was white, the white grapes, the white soils, because that day it was a sunny day and it was just glowing white. And this one doesn't represent it. This was actually a fairly recent picture. The soils don't look as white there because it's been raining a lot here, and so this was kind of after a rain. But yeah, so anyway, so I fell in love, and I'm a dreamer anyway, and I said, that's weird, and one day it will be mine. And I kind of said it facetiously, kind of joking, but I said it for probably a year after I fell in love with it. Ran into the owner, and I jokingly said, one day I would like to buy your vineyard. And he kind of, he wasn't the nicest man, and he kind of just laughed me off a little bit, you know. And but apparently he remembered me, because 2.5 years later, at the time he said no, but 2.5 years later, he called my husband. And I remember my husband came home and said, you're never going to believe who called me today, the owner of Hapa's vineyard. And he said he wants to make you the first offer. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Because my husband makes wines for the winery and they're under his name. And again, my husband is very directed. He says, we aren't going to do anything, because at the time we were building our new winery. We used to make wine under our house, so we were really like garage winemakers. And he said, we aren't going to do anything because all of our money is invested in the land and in the house, and I can't help you purchase this vineyard. If you want to buy it, you'll have to find a way to get it. And prior to moving to Spain, I had worked pretty much in the United States for corporations. So I had my pension fund, my 401k. And so I just said, I asked some people that are probably financially smarter with money than I am. And I said, what do you think? Should I buy this vineyard? And they said, well, it would, you know, because it's take that money from the United States that I plan to retire with. And they said, it's land, it's a vineyard, it's in Rioja, and your husband is a winemaker. What do you have to lose? So that's what I did. I bought, this was the first vineyard that I bought. And with this vineyard, I wanted to do something that expresses the vineyard, but also do something a little bit more unique and what have you. So, so what we did, how we make this wine. Oh, and I should also tell you about how we farm. Oh, maybe you can go to the, you can show my, okay, so this, technically the vineyard that you see behind the horses, that is Japa. So that kind of gives you an orientation to where we are along the Sierra Cantabria mountain range. But that kind of gives you a good idea. This is Venus and Nina. They are our two plow horses that we have. So we have 15 hectares in total. With my vineyards, well, Japa's vineyard is actually 2.9 technically. I always just round up and say 3 hectares, which is actually quite big, but that's another thing. The old parcels here in this area are generally smaller, because they were all divided up kind of more like Burgundy. But if you start to go up the mountain, you're taking over wheat fields, so you can plant much bigger surface area. So anyway, so this is how we farm. So we farm all of our vineyards by plow horse, and we are certified organic. We work biodynamically. If we can get that certification this year, we'll see. So that's, for me, I'm very passionate about it. I feel like as people in agriculture or vine growers, or if you're doing anything with the land, it's kind of, we need to be stewards of the land. It's our responsibility. I'm pretty passionate about that. So oftentimes it's really, when we do a conversion over to a vineyard, when we purchase a vineyard, we just cut them cold turkey, because for us, it doesn't, if we lose some vines because they previously were pre-treated with chemicals and then we just cut them off cold turkey, it doesn't matter because we're making wine, we're not selling grapes. So we'd rather lose the weak ones and then maintain what we have. Okay, so this is kind of going the other direction. That mountain range behind what you see there, that's the Sierra Cantabria. And oh my God, I just lost the name that I look at. Anyway, so that's the other mountain range, because we're kind of in a triangle in Rioja Alavesa. And my husband would kill me if I told him I can't remember the name of the mountain range. So that's kind of just to give you, we're above the village. So that's one thing that I had mentioned, but we're in between these two, but we're much closer, obviously. This is a larger mountain range, but we're much closer to Sierra Cantabria mountain range. So, yeah, so those are the vines, and the way we make the wine. So as I was mentioning, I wanted to do something that was just something more unique, but still expresses the vineyard. So what we do, I actually, because Ignacio couldn't believe that I didn't have a glass in my hand. So I went out and I got a bottle and I poured some. And I thought it was also good for you to see, if for those of you who haven't tried it, it's more of an amber color. And that is because the grapes are, as I mentioned, Viura, Malvasia, and a little bit of Garnacha Blanca. And so it does have skin contact. It is a skin contact we do work with skin contact during the fermentation, but it's a white that is, it's a white that is, I see them. It's fermented in concrete tanks. So it's really carbonic maceration white, which is very unique. It was my husband, because I was telling him, I have a tendency of making short stories even longer, but it's something that had intrigued me, but doing skin contact, we had always done skin contact whites. And I had said, what do you think about a little bit more time with the skin? And my husband had said his concern with a long maceration without any chemical processes, then that's when bacteria can come in. And that's where, if something's going to go wrong, it could potentially go wrong. So that's when we had said, well, why don't we try carbonic maceration? And that way that chemical process is going while it's much slower. And so it actually ferments with the skin for the whole cluster. We don't obviously go whole cluster in the concrete tank, we close it, and then it ferments for 1 month. And we have to press it prior to fermentation, because in order for it to finish the ferment, then there's still a lot of sugar in the grapes and whatnot when you're doing carbonic maceration. So we have to press it actually before it's technically fully fermented. And then we pass it to a 2,000 liter foudre. And that's where it spends the rest of its life. So it spends 1 year in that foudre. So we try to implement the same thing in the vineyards. To me, it's very important the way we treat the land, but it's also important to have that same care, bringing that into the winery. So I will say minimal intervention as well, but as we like to say, if you don't intervene, what you get is vinegar. So we definitely intervene when we have to. We try to work very conservatively with sulfur. So for example, this wine it only sees sulfur prior to bottling. And so it's funny when you taste it, when it's in the foudre, you know, it goes through interesting periods and whatnot, and in the end, we put a little bit of sulfur prior to bottling just to keep it fresh, and because we export a lot of our wines, we don't sell that much in Spain. So don't let the color scare you. It's not an issue for any of you who are, I think a lot of people now are more open and whatnot to these kind of things, but don't be scared when you see the color, because I know even when we sell a teeny tiny bit in Spain, and I remember I would actually get emails from consumers very politely asking me, I liked it, but is this color normal? And so, but now this is definitely changing, and wineries are definitely jumping on to this more. So I get a lot less questions, but it's funny just seeing the people's reaction at first, like, oh my gosh, that color. So so yeah, it's probably actually a nice compliment after Ignacio. I wasn't tasting his wine, but knowing the variety and knowing it sounds like it's a very fresh, and with those varieties, acidity, what have you. This one, it's probably a nice compliment, meaning yes, it's white, but it drinks more like a red. I'm assuming if you're tasting it now, you probably feel that it has more of the body, you know, and actually interesting, Viura is not necessarily, Viura, you can think of it maybe more like if you compare it like a Spanish Chardonnay. So it's going to react a lot to the soil. So oftentimes people will note that there's a chalkiness, because this vineyard is, like I said, white limestone, but it's a lot of chalk in the soil. So you'll feel sometimes that minerality in the wine, but it has more body, and it's probably a completely different flavor profile than the first wine you tasted. So that's why I mean it's probably a nice compliment, because you're seeing two completely different things here. It often, to me, has a lot of honey, and membrillo is anyway, and a lot of peach. Any Spanish? Is
it quince?
Quince, thank you. I always forget that. Yeah. So things like that. And even for a white, even a lot of times it will give off some balsamic characteristics as well. So any questions for me?
That's good. I like your point about minimal intervention, not, doesn't mean no intervention. I think that's, I can get forgotten sometimes. I would, one actually, just about biodynamics. And obviously you purchased the vineyard. Was it already being farmed biodynamically? Did it take a massive transformation? If it did, how long did it take?
No, and so that's what I was mentioning. Whenever we purchase or I purchase any vineyard, generally speaking here, let me think. We personally have never purchased anything that was ever even organically farmed, especially in our village. I don't know why they're so backwards with that. I mean, you'll find we have a village next to us, Lantiego, and they have a lot of young producers that are actually, they're very forward focused. They have that forward thinking that they're working organically, and they're, you know, a lot of them, this is, it seems to be normal for them. But in our village, it's so strange. I mean, it's just, there's not a lot of that. And even I'm personally buying some vineyards in Cripan, which is kind of even further up the mountain. And as well, there's just not a lot of organic biodynamic here. So when we buy them, as I said, we cut them cold turkey. We go from one day they're not, they're conventionally farmed, and as soon as we come in, we don't touch them really. We'll do some biodynamic applications, the 501 elements, things like this, but we're not weaning them. Some used to say that they would wean the vines, but for us, it doesn't matter. If there's a weak vine and if it dies, we'll replant it. It's not that big of a deal. We'd rather get rid of the weak and worry more about quality than quantity of vines that are there. So it's going to be one or two. It's going to be more than one or two, but it'll be a few that potentially won't make it, but it's not. And when you buy something interesting, this is a little off topic. What we found here is when we buy vineyards that are actually planted before maybe the 50s, before the organic farming, or sorry, before conventional farming and the use of chemicals and whatnot, the older vines, we find they're actually healthier, because maybe we have a couple theories, maybe because they started their life without chemicals. And then maybe it's like a person, once you're starting to take, blood pressure medication, if you stop that blood pressure medication, we don't know, but we actually find that some of them are healthier. So in this vineyard, we did have to plant quite a few, but it's a larger vineyard for us. So you lose some vines, it's not that big of a deal. Someone asked, I see here, could this be considered an orange wine? Yes, of course, because it's more than there is no official definition. This to me is kind of like saying, could this be a natural wine? These are just terms personally, as a winery, we try not to use to describe our wines, because I think it's also because sometimes when we go out tasting, if someone is very strong and very rigid about natural or orange, sometimes you get the outliers that are the funky, but not in a good way, and maybe faulty, really faulty, this kind of thing. So we just don't ever say it, but yes, if you could consider it an orange wine. But again, it's kind of like saying, what's a natural wine? There is no definition. What's an orange wine? I don't really think there is a definition. Some people have said it has to have more than, these are just in conversations I've heard, more than a couple of weeks. I think you can read with the skins, you can read different things, but yes, so it's technically, we just say a skin contact wine just to, and also I think one time, also I think for people that don't understand what an orange wine is, like your customers, and the reason I say that is because one time we went into a restaurant that had the wine, and the girl up front didn't know anything about wine, so it wasn't her fault, but we didn't introduce ourselves, and I had asked for a glass of our wine, and she said, okay, so this is an orange wine, so it's a wine fermented with orange peel. And I was like, oh my God, she just described my wine to me as a wine that's fermented with orange peel. And so after that, I was like, okay, that even further goes with my theory of don't explain it as an orange wine, because a lot of people don't know, and they probably went there a lot more, like there probably been a lot of people before me, and she had explained it that way. And so I think it's just something it's a personal preference for us.
You never know, you might find some weird spike in sales. People, oh, that sounds lovely. Melanie, we could talk to you all day. The story's fantastic. I hope people are enjoying the wine.
And thank you for everybody for showing up.
incredible story. Like I say, I wish we had another hour, but thank you so much for joining us. I think you've been best background as well through these results, through these tastings. But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add at this point? You happy?
No, thank you for your time, and feel free if I missed anything, anyone can reach out to me direct and ask me questions about the wine, or if you're ever, when things open up again, we always welcome visits to, especially those who understand that we do things different here and we're not your typical Rioja in many ways, but.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mel.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. We will switch over to Hugo. Thank you, Mel. And hopefully we'll have Hugo live from Alta Pavina in just a second. There he is, Hugo. Hello.
Hi, Mike.
No, there we go. Perfect. Oh, he's competing for background though. I think.
Can you listen to me?
We can hear you. Yeah, I think. There we are.
Yeah. Great.
Very good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. A little bit cold, as I was a bit. I don't know how to say it, but I wanted to introduce you our vines and our winery, and the vineyard, of course, which is one of the most interesting parts of the winery. Though in the barrel room there wasn't good connection, so I decided to do the connection through inside the vineyard. So I'm just gonna do a little walk. I don't know if you can see, to introduce you our vineyard, which is one of the biggest Pinot Noir vineyard in Spain, planted in the 85. We are in the heart of the Ribera del Duero, but we are not a Ribera del Duero, though the DO doesn't allow the Pinot Noir variety. So above those trees, that little wood that you may see after the vineyard, you just have the Douro River after 2-3 miles. Okay, so this is where we are located. This is the winery, and now you may see all our partners who are doing the pruning those days. We wait until the very last of the term, as there was it was a very rainy and a big snow like a couple of weeks ago, so we couldn't keep doing all the pruning and that things. And this is where we are. My name is Hugo. This is a winery of two brothers, my brother Diego and me, which is also represented in our wines, in all our labels. All of them says that it's the great adventure of two brothers, because we are so proud of what we're doing and of the unique idea that we had a few years ago. It's also a vineyard located in an old farm. Okay, you may see as well over there, all those buildings are the ancient farm in where the Alta Pavina vineyards are and winery is located. It was a farm where they grow here cows and pigs, so you may imagine all the richness of our land, because where all our vines, all our vineyard was planted, a lot of years before, there was a lot of animals developing and growing around. So all their purines and all of their life has been introduced in our land, and at the end it gives these special notes and this minerality that only our wines can produce. We do other varieties. We also do Tempranillo. We also produce Cabernet Sauvignon and Verdejo as well. But we're gonna talk today about our Citius, the Pinot Noir with 18 months in French oak barrel, developed here in our winery. I don't know if you want to ask me. Hold on. Okay, can you
You're back. There we are.
see me again?
But,
I had to plug the. So well, this winery has a lovely history. No one does Pinot Noir in Spain. Very few wineries, around 5 or 6 that I know. There's some others that produce Pinot Noir for doing cava in Catalonia, but around Spain is very unusual. The thing why there isn't a lot of Pinot Noir around is because of the climate, of course. Spain is a warm country. We have wonderful varieties, autochthones as well, but no one have the idea of doing such a unique and elegant grape here in Spain because of the difficulty that it gives itself. No, it's a variety very difficult to grow itself in their places of origin in the Burgundy, in the New World areas. So imagine in Spain, which is a very warm country. So we thought when we planted this this vineyard in the 85, in doing some very special thing, and we thought very carefully about where to do it, and that's why we are here, because we are, and that's why we are not also Ribera del Duero under the appellation of the Ribera del Duero, because we are a little bit outside of the limit, around 5 or 10 miles. If you just go above those trees that I showed you a few minutes ago, you will find all those big wineries from the Ribera del Duero that we all know, all those Alión, Vega Sicilia, Pingus, they are all just in around 20 kilometers from where we are. And we are very close to Valladolid as well. For those who doesn't know the Ribera del Duero, we are in the around 150 and 200 kilometers northwest from Madrid, less than 2 hours by car. So you, as my partner said before, of course, you are very welcome whenever you want to come. All the connections are very close from Madrid to here to the winery, and we will be delighted to receive you with our arms open, of course. The reason why we decided to do Pinot Noir is because well, our family, our father and our mother always introduced us the Burgundy wines, the Burgundy wines, sorry, Bourgogne wines. Those in the close to the Lyon area in France, and they were the wines in which they were more in love with. They always saw us those wines. Of course, all the Spanish wines we grew with drinking and trying and tasting all those wonderful wines from the Ribera del Duero. But we wanted to do something different and some special and some unique, no? And that's why we decided to do and to pass in some other step up to the Pinot Noir variety. Is that variety which gives all the expressness and all the elegance and all the essence that only it can give, no? So that's why we decided to introduce to the world the Pinot Noir in a way that no one ever done. At the end, it's a Pinot Noir with all the elegance of the variety, with all the structure and the balance that only this variety gives. But we also give all the strength of the land in where we are. We have the soil, we have the sand. Of course, we have the cool, being at this altitude in a 1,000 meters high land above from the a little bit outside from the Ribera del Duero, looking for that altitude to cool down our vines and to cool down all our vineyard. We are able to develop such a difficult and special variety which needs all the treatment that only this variety gives. So we get in contact like 15 around more than 15 years ago with Monsieur Claude Bourguignon, who is in charge of the vineyard, who was in charge of the vineyard of one of the most famous wines in the world, which is the Romanée Conti. And well, even though he has a lot of differences and he didn't believe a lot in our project in the beginning, at the end he came by the area to the Douro River wineries, and he decided to visit us, and he understood how we are doing this and why we were able to produce a Pinot Noir here in this area, in this geographic area. So so we are working with Monsieur Bourguignon since then, trying to look forward the way they are working the vineyard in the Burgundy area, and of course with our good things, with the bad things, but with our very specific wine. At the end, we have this very unique wine, all the elegance. You may find as well all those 18 months in French of barrel. We always use as well old barrels. We never use new ones from second till fourth or maybe fifth year, for not to give all the strength of the wood. But of course, our grapes are the product that gets up from all this area that I saw you, needs to be developed in the barrel slowly, with all the heart and all the passion that the wines need. But we don't want to give all that strength. We are more focused on the fruity and to be more smooth wines and that thing. So that's why we always use all barrels for it. We are doing nowadays some tasting with new projects, new materials for growing the wines. So we are starting to introduce these concrete big eggs for rest even more the presence of the wood. We are trying to get focus in the variety itself, in the fruit, of course. So I don't know if you have any questions, if you have tasted our wine, our citrus, if you can feel all this uniqueness that we pretend to show. It's definitely unique. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, it really is. It's very unusual Pinot Noir, not better nor worse, of course not, of other ones, but completely different with all the essence of the variety, but with all the strength of the land in where we are, which I try to introduce you. I'm getting so cold around. That's why we are in this altitude, to get this climb, which is not good for the human being, but is perfect for our vines.
That's great. Obviously, you explained why it works, but you must still have people when it was being planted or when you started working on it who said, "You're mad. What you're doing with Pinot Noir in Spain?" Was that the case? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it happens. It still is happening, even though we were able to introduce our wines in more than 20 countries. We are exporting quite a lot. At the beginning, no one, and our project here in Spain, it was a variety which no one knew, which very little people, or people who had traveled a lot understood. We are plenty of our own varieties, which are fantastic. We are country producing wines. So at the end, all our customers here, in the local people, are more focused in tasting our own wines than others, and many people didn't understand it. But nowadays we could get up to more than 17 different provinces here in Spain. So we are introducing little by little. Of course, we started doing it through the more cosmopolitan areas like Barcelona, like the coast and the seaside areas, and places where many foreign people came, which are more used to drink peanuts and were very surprised on how we did it. But at the end, we could introduce our wine as well here in Spain, and we are so proud of it. But yeah, in the beginning, they call us the crazy Ortega brothers. I don't know why. We are so normal people and all that things. But yeah, we had this idea. We were in love with this variety, and we are, I think, the biggest vineyard of Pinot Noir here around in Spain. And we are the winery, even though we produce as well some other varieties, we are very focused in doing Pinot Noir and producing probably the 70 or 75% of our wines are based on Pinot Noirs. We do this 100% that we are introducing today, the Citrus, but we also do this one, the Rosé one, which is also a 100% wine, and then we do a blend, which is, even though like a bigger step to that thing that you said before, Mike, that we are some kind of crazy or different people, no? Because I never seen a blend of Pinot Noir and Tempranillo, no? This is one of our other characteristics that gives some essence and uniqueness to our winery.
Yeah, but it works. Yeah, the rosé actually is one of my favorite, if not my favorite rosé I've ever tried. So I do recommend people try that at some point, especially with summer coming along. It's fantastic. Thank you, Hugo. I don't know if we had any other questions. I think you've explained through it so well. I think it's an amazing project. I love the wines.
Just a quick question coming in from James. Does growing Pinot Noir in Spain require more intervention in the winemaking?
Well, at the end, you know, as I said, we produce other varieties, and probably the 75% of our vineyard is Pinot Noir, but we invest like the 90% of our time to the Pinot Noir vineyard. Yeah, of course, it needs a lot of work to do in the vineyard. It has been always a very difficult plant, a very difficult variety, even though in Burgundy or in the New World areas that are good producers of Pinot Noir, and of course in Central Europe, in Switzerland, in Austria, Germany, or Northern Italy, they also produce Pinot. So we have an extra work producing it here in Spain, as we are outside of its special conditions. And then the time in the winery, you were asking about that, which differences working in the vineyard or working in the winery. We let it work itself. It's a matter of time, of developing in the proper barrels, of course, of working the harvest very properly as you wish and as you want. But at the end, it's a matter of producing the wine in 15 days, maybe 1 month, no, to develop the most in wine at last. So the period that you invest is more here in the vineyard. Then in the winery, we invest a lot of time, but it's the wine itself who gets developed in the barrels or in the tanks. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I answer your question.
I think so. I think that hopefully that answered it. Yeah. I was going to say, actually, if anyone does have questions afterwards, do fire them over to us via email, or everyone's on Instagram, so pop them on there, Twitter, whatever. But no, thank you very much, Hugo. I'm conscious it's quite cold there as well, so we'll let you get inside and warm up. But,
no, but later on we will come into the winery and we will have a wonderful meal around the wines, so we will get warm easily. Never mind about that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to join you for that sometime soon. That's great. Brilliant. Thanks to all our producers today, to Ignacio, Melanie, Hugo. As I said, if there's any other questions, fire them over to us via email, or get involved on Instagram and Twitter. Really hope you enjoyed the wines today. Next week we've got some of our Moreno faves next week, and then we've got the 2 tastings after that as well. So if you did just sign up for today and you suddenly fancy joining all 3, I'm sure we can sort that out for you. Yeah, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, Hamish, or we'll
No, I think that's everything. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.